What's up, everyone, and welcome into the Buffalo Sports Collective. It is Wednesday, August 20th, 2025. As always, I'm PK alongside my co-host, Phil. Episode 376. Remember, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Don't forget to follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts. We're everywhere out there. If you want to see our mugs, go to YouTube. Check out our website at buffalosportscollective.com. While there, hit the shop tab at the top of the website or at any of the social media sites. We got our link tree there. Go to that. You can check out the store. You can represent the BSC on the go and look for the time breakdowns in the description of the show. We got Bills Game 2, if you want to call what happened a Game 2. After this got released, James Cook, or episode last week, James Cook got his deal, so we'll break that down a week late. Yes, we're way late, but we're one show a week in the summer. You don't come to us for your fast breaking news Bills stories. That's just not what we do. We're Bandits centered, and Bandits are still without a contract as well as the rest of the NLL. We'll break down the contract for James Cook. We got a relocation of the Albany Firewolves. We'll break that one down. A couple more, no signings, but some offer sheets thrown out there, or qualifying offers. That's the better way to put it. Better than offer sheets. And then we have. We're making deals on behalf of the Buffalo Bandits this week. We picked 3 each. One of them is centered around the greatest goaltender, possibly greatest player of all time in lacrosse. If he does decide to do what we're hoping he doesn't do, we'll build a team around that. But Phil, as we start all summer episodes, week in review, because everyone cares so much about what we do in our off time. Phil, what did you do this week?
We had mainly the draft on Saturday night.
How'd it go, Phil? How'd it go for us?
It was a horrendous draft.
Gross.
My team looks
Trash.
terrible.
Trash.
I do not like much of it, pretty much any of it. Not excited about the season. Still feeling pretty down about the team, but we'll see. I mean, every year I go into the season feeling good about my team and nothing good happens. So maybe I need to feel down about the team and make magic happen. We'll see. But yeah, we had the draft. It was a good time. It was super slow. I don't know what was happening out there. People were taking way too long to make their picks. PK and I did pick back to back, but we were on the far side of the draft. We were 7-8. So out of 10. So after our picks were done, we picked and then let the other people pick in front of us, which is pretty quick because our one friend, John, who's been on the show, he was rapid firing his picks and he had the turnaround on the snake draft. So he had 10-11. So he was very quickly picking, and then Cam would pick pretty quick, and then you and I would pick pretty quick, and then it'd be about 30 minutes later by the time we got back to our picks. So we eventually went and hit some wiffle ball. That was a good time. But overall, it was fun. It was fun getting together with other guys. We only didn't have John, was the only one not in person for the draft, and that's always a good time to get everyone together. It's a good excuse to hang out with the bros, so it was a good time. Other than that, pretty much slept a lot of Saturday. I worked Friday night, which I don't normally do, so that pretty much killed my Saturday, and then Sunday was also like half recovery from not sleeping all that much. So that was a pretty lame weekend other than the draft.
Fair. We had the drafts, like you just mentioned. We do keepers. So you get one lock, as everybody cares about fantasy again. You get one lock of the player that wasn't a keeper from the previous year, and then you pick 3 other players, and they're randomly selected. So in the end, you end up with 2 keepers starting the following year. I started with Drake London as my lock. It was pretty good. And then the rest of the team, who somehow finished in third, looking back, I don't know how the heck I finished in third. I know I had St. Brown and I think it was Kyron, maybe, somebody that I had to drop because they weren't keepers. I couldn't keep them a third straight year. But I somehow finished in third. That's why I was picking 8th. But, man, there was no other options. I had TJ Hawkinson for my other one, so started bad. Had Genty as my first overall pick, and then Josh Allen. And then it all came tumbling down pretty quickly. It's a gross team. I ranked myself 9 out of 10, and my streak of making 6 straight playoffs might be coming up. Although I said going in, I win every 3 years. This is the 3rd year, so technically this title should be mine. But enough about fantasy. Had a family cookout at my house last Wednesday, so as everybody was listening to this, did burgers on the little griddle out there. Put up a little pop-up tent. Had 4 dogs running around the backyard at one point with their foster, our 2 dogs, and then my sister brings her dog over, so 4 dogs running in the backyard. That was fun. And then we had a pizza night on Sunday at our friend's house out in Grand Island. They have this wood-burning pizza maker outside. It is
like a pizza
incredible.
oven, essentially.
Like, have you ever been to Blaze Pizza?
Yeah.
It's that on a smaller level. Like, the pizzas were done in, like, 60 seconds. It was unbelievable. It took longer to make the pizzas than it did to cook them. Delicious little game night. I've never played Wavelengths before. I'm not going to try to explain it. Go read it. Brooke tried to explain it to me before the party because, as you know firsthand, I don't take directions very well, and I don't have a long attention span.
PK just wants to play. He'll figure it out.
I get bored. I'll figure it out along the way. That was a fun game, and then I can't remember what it was called, but you get a word, and then you write the word on the thing, and then you got to draw the word, and then you got to pass it to the next person. They got to guess what it was, and then their guess goes to the next person, and based off that guess what it was, they have to draw the picture, and then it just repeats all the way until you get your book back.
What was it called? Like telephone, where you have to keep
it's
passing
something
the word
like that,
along,
but it's for pictures.
I gotcha.
That got out of hand quickly. I'm bad drawer. My first one was kitten, and it somehow got back to me, and it revolved around kitten. So I drew a picture of a cat, like a big cat, and then I X'd it out, and then a smaller cat. I'm like, how am I? If I just draw a cat, everybody's just going to say cat. They're not going to say kitten. And it ended up bad. There was some things that I knew weren't real words. That they could have been real words on that thing, and it ended up going, I'm like, that's what this picture is. That's what I got to write down. But that was a fun one. But I get bored. Like I said, I get bored easily. So I'll draw what it is, and then in the spare time I have, I'll draw other things around it. Like I had a desert island at one point, so I drew an island, a little flag, somebody's on it, and then I was like, well, no, some people might think this is an island, so I drew some waves and a sun, and I was like, people might think this is a sky, so I drew some boats out there, and then I was like, castaway, so I drew a volleyball floating away. I was like, Pirates of the Caribbean, so I drew a X marks the spot.
How much time you got?
It was probably a good minute and a half, but I drew an island in like 2 seconds. So.
That's very fair.
But it was a fun game, fun night. Yeah, I got to get one of those wood-burning pizza ovens. But enough with what we did this week. What I guess we were more, what do you call it? We did more things than the Buffalo Bills did. Game 2 of the preseason. Again, preseason, not taking much into it. I don't care about the score whatsoever as long as as long as all players leave the game healthy. I do not care what the score looks like. I don't pretty much care what it even looks like player-wise. But they lost 38-0 against Bears. It was bad from the get-go. No starters really played. Again, preseason, who really cares? They were just terrible, though. The offense, defense, nothing looked good. The safeties, to me, are a big concern based on Sean McDermott's comments on Tuesday on his press conference. He's still looking for the starter next to Taylor Rapp. Cole Bishop's coming back very, very slowly, but he hasn't looked good in the spare time he's been in there between last year and this year. Hancock, who was looking really good in preseason, we talked about him in Game 1. Going into Game 2, he looked really good. We thought maybe he could be an option at safety. He gets hurt on his shoulder. Doesn't seem like it's long-term, but he might not be playing in Tampa Bay in Game 3. I don't know if Elijah Moore is going to make this roster. Gabe Davis is supposed to be coming out here on Wednesday, but a lot of people are thinking maybe that has a lot to do with him working out with Pittsburgh and trying to pressure Pittsburgh into getting a deal, and that's why he's coming to Buffalo for a showcase. But I don't like that move, but I'm worried about the wide receiver room beyond. It even sounds like they're worried about it because they said they have a top 3, and then beyond that, they're not really sure. It's Coleman, it's Palmer, and it's Shakir, and Shakir's still hurt right now. Coleman does sound like he's having a good camp. And then Trubisky versus White. Based on reports and based on what my eyes see, I think Trubisky won this week along with the joint practice on Friday. I think it's Trubisky's to lose, and I know Mike White just got hurt on Thursday's practice as well, so that goes in his favor. I don't know what Mike White has to do in these last cut down days next Tuesday, what he has to do. It would be interesting to see Buechel or White goes to the practice squad. I would wonder if Mike White would have other teams calling him to be a backup out there rather than be a practice squad player. So it will be interesting, but I think it's Trubisky's to lose after what I thought Mike White was on a high after game one.
Yeah, I think because Trubisky's been around for so long already. I think
friends with Josh
needs,
Allen.
Right, the backup needs to come in, like if an outside backup, not Trubisky, but somebody competing with Trubisky needs to come in and really wow everything, and needs to be like near perfect in order to take that away from Trubisky, because like you said, they already have a really good dynamic with him and Allen. He's been here for a little while. He has some rushing upside to him, so if Allen misses time, he has a little bit more of an Allen-like presence out there.
Yeah, he can scramble more than Mike White can.
Right, exactly. And that's what the Bills kind of are built around right now, because that's what Allen does. So Trubisky's a little bit similar to Allen, so I think in order for White to really make it, he'd have to go out there, be perfect, be like, again, just like absolutely incredible. There's no way we can let this guy go to the practice squad. We need him on the team. Like, unless you're at that level, it's going to be very hard to take it away from Trubisky. Outside of that, I mean, more than anything, I just want the season to get going and see what this team actually looks like. Because this was obviously not it. Preseason, like you said, try not to take too much out of it, but the safeties look brutal. Even the cornerbacks aren't looking fantastic in depth. I mean, White wasn't playing this game. He looked only okay in the previous game. And then even Dane Jackson looks rough. So I don't know what you really have in your cornerbacks either. So the secondary of the Bills right now through preseason looks rough. So that's one of the things where, like, I just want to get them out there, get that first game out there. And the first game against the Ravens is not the one you want to test a bad defense against, but it'll show you exactly where you are as far as a defense. If they go out there and get just torched, well, then you got some work to do for the rest of the season. Elijah Moore, a couple bad drops, didn't look very good. And then Shavers, again, the only real wide receiver with much spark or pulse to this entire preseason, continues to look pretty good. So I hope he makes it, simply because I'd like to take the exciting youth and just energy that we just don't really see from the wide receiver room of the Bills right now over somebody like Moore. Like, yes, he has the experience, he's been around longer, but he's not wowing anybody in camp, while Shavers is. So I'd rather take the unknown upside than the veteran presence just to have him because he's a veteran. So we'll see if Shavers can make the team. But the wide receiver room is not looking great for them. The secondary on the defense not looking great, but it's preseason, and pretty much we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, I did like the defensive line a bit more. Landon Jackson, I thought, had a bounce back game. Michael Hoyt, I know I ripped him last week. Ripped is a strong word. I did think I
you
did
were
like
unimpressed.
I was unimpressed by the signing. I thought he had a bounce back game in this one. But yeah, it comes down to like we've said.
It's going to be on
times.
That defensive line more than anything.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they put their investment into, and they need that defensive line to pressure like crazy if that secondary is going to hold up at all.
Yeah, I'm very nervous about what the safety room is going to be, and I think I put it in our group chat. I think it's going to be another year of Damar Hamlin, and this is no shot at Damar Hamlin. It's just you know what he is, and he has a baseline, and it's no better than what it is, and it came back to bite the Bills, especially in the playoff game where he was getting burned a ton versus Travis Kelce and versus, Xavier Worthy and so on and so forth. So it's very strange that they saw what the safety room was, and their fix to it was hoping Cole Bishop would take that next step, or Derek Forrest, who really hasn't done anything, is going to be on the chopping block and probably cut next Tuesday, which is cut down day. So we won't have the episode as that's
real
happening.
Sabres attitude to this team this year.
That's what I've brought up multiple times, is the Sabres attitude towards this is hoping players exceed expectations and take that next step rather than get replacements for it. Elijah Moore is kind of the replacement to, Mac Hollins. When you're trying to replace Mac Hollins and not try to get improvements over that, it's right. But we've beat a dead horse enough on this one. Thoughts,
especially when you have the league MVP,
yes,
and you're not doing enough to build around him and do something with a league MVP on the team.
You're saying he will make everybody better? Yes, but wouldn't you want to make his job easier? And one of the only star performers from last year was James Cook, and we recorded on Tuesday night. That episode goes out as soon as I'm done editing, so late Tuesday. Wednesday we get it posted, and surprise, surprise, I was dead wrong on everything James Cook related. I said I don't think they're going to get him signed. It makes no sense. They've never paid running backs. Why would you pay a running back? I'm still on the assumption. I was very angry about the contract when it first broke down, and we don't have to go over the numbers and everything. That's already been broken for a week now. I am more okay with the contract that he signed based on the breakdown of it, and that it's very easy to get out of it after like year 2. They could probably get a year out. I mean, this year he's still playing on his rookie year right now. I know they finagled the money a little bit, but this is currently still his 4th year on his rookie deal. Next year starts that. I think it's after next year's contract. They could actually save money by releasing him. I think it's like $3 million. It's really, I believe, 2027 or 2028 at that point that they would really save a ton of money. I think it's like $8 million on the cap. That is what you want to see building in rookie or running back contracts. It's easy to get out of. Hence, go look at the New Orleans Saints and Alvin Kamara. Like, they're tied to him. Like, he's not going anywhere because they're not saving any money on the cap because they restructured him so much. As long as they do not restructure him and push money down the line, I love the contract because you're locking him in for at least 5 more years. It's probably going to be like a 3-year deal, though. So I love, that's why we don't tweet right after it. That's why I don't make big time comments after it. I was always like, okay, I want to see the breakdown of this before I freak out, because all the guaranteed money and 4 more years and all this kind of stuff that they threw out, and it's like, this is nothing like Kyron Williams' deal. And then the numbers finally come out and it's like, okay, this is what it all is. I'm a lot more okay with the deal. I feel like at this point I would have signed him to this deal, even though I am of the objective I don't pay running backs. This just doesn't seem like a typical running back type of deal.
Yeah, it works for both the team
Yes.
and the player. The player gets paid, and the team, like you just mentioned, can get out of it without it being a 5, 6, 7, 8 year contract. So
just don't restructure him. Don't push the money down the line.
I do think it worked in the end for both
Yes.
the team and the player. And again, this is from the business side, we like it for the Bills. From the player side, and we've talked about this a lot, like, we want Cook to get paid. We believe in players getting paid. They, put a lot of strain on their bodies to do this. You can only do it for so long, especially as running backs. Their shelf life isn't super long. Get paid while you can, get your money, enjoy it, have fun. You deserve it. And that was the other thing, is like, yes, we were kind of negative on Cook as far as re-signing him, but it wasn't for the talent. It was for the money he wanted for the talent that he is. We both believe he makes this team better. We both believe he's a very good running back. It wasn't about him being terrible by any means. We want him off the team. It was just simply the money he was looking for was way too much. And I do like that it came out, whether true or not, I believe it was proven that, like, Bean pretty much wouldn't talk about the contract unless he came back to practice. I thought that was kind of funny, with especially how Cook was handling everything, where you'd go there and he would say he was going to play in the game and then end up not playing in the game. And he was definitely playing his own antics for sure. So it was nice to see the GM be able to push back a little bit and, like, we can talk about the contract all you want, but you got to practice. So that was kind of nice. And then shortly after that came out, hey, they got a contract done. So I do think it works really well for both the player and the team. And he does obviously make the Bills a better team than without him, especially with what's going on. Either way, I think if they didn't re-sign him this offseason, he would have played this season. So it wasn't doom and gloom if he didn't re-sign. Like, I don't think he would have given up game checks to sit out. I don't think he was going to actually hold out. He needs to prove that he can go out and get that next contract if he didn't sign here. So I think in the end, he still would have played this season, still would have been very effective. So it wasn't really about this year, but he is still very young. He's been an elite talent. He needs to fix a few things. We'd like to see him be even more elite, sure. But I think overall he makes the Bills a better team than they would be without him. And the bigger thing that you mentioned, which sad for me because I love hypothetical worlds, they don't have to worry about the running back every single draft now for years to come, and PK loves that. So when they go into draft and they go into draft needs, you go to the Buffalo Bills. They won't have running back there, so that'll be nice. So they can talk about wide receiver for the next 17 years until they actually get one. But anyway, for the most part, I think it was good. Again, good for the player, good for the team, good to have him back, whether it's 3 years, 5 years, whatever it is, as long as he's productive and doing well. Good to see him back in Buffalo.
Yeah, and I believe the majority of
staying
the
in Buffalo, sorry, not back.
The majority of the offense is tied to Buffalo for multiple years now, with the exception of Connor McGovern and Osiris Torrance. I believe they're the only ones that aren't signed to multi-year deals that are mainstays in this offense.
And
so
continuity in the offense is huge.
It's going to be very interesting. I think Connor McGovern's the next one that you really got to keep an eye on if he does get a deal done. That would be the next one, because he is up after this year. But before we dive into the NLL and Buffalo Bandits coverage, let's go over our first and only sponsor of this episode, Tap That Tap Room at 363 Delaware Street in Tonawanda, New York. It's Buffalo's first woman-owned self-pour bar. They feature 30 consistently rotating taps with a variety of beers, ciders, sours, seltzers, and malt beverages.
PK, this week we have trivia with Geeks Who Drink on Wednesday starting at 7:30 as is tradition. But on Thursday, it gets a little special. We got Ithaca Beer Tap Attack with free samples of new sours, Odyssey IPA, and their apricot wheat, plus the speed puzzling competition with tickets still available at puzzle.buzz. Friday is happy hour from 3 to 7. And then finally on Saturday, it's going to be a night of music starting at 7 p.m. with Evan Leidke. And that is what Tap That Tap Room has coming up, with other things that we will discuss within the next couple of weeks. They got a couple big events around the corner.
Check out for the fun reel coming out soon.
Yes, sir.
We'll go over the NLL signings first. Then we'll go over Albany. Then we'll go over our deals. No real contracts were worked out, but a ton of qualifying offers based on the CBA, which doesn't exist. I still don't understand this at all. I forgot to go back and look at 2022 to see if this was a common theme. There's got to be something going. I'm not going to dive into it because we'll just go over the qualifying offers that are out there right now. And what that means is you have to be an RFA. They qualify you, and if it's qualifying offer plus, you're guaranteed to make, or they're offering you a deal for more than you made last year. If it's just a qualifying offer, it's to keep you from becoming a UFA. It's not a ton to it. It's just it's the players that you would know would pretty much get qualified. It's players that the teams do not want these players to hit free agency and go anywhere else. Jackson Nishimura and John Wagner for Albany got a qualifying offer plus. For Colorado, Jalen Chaster, TJ Camizio, Connor Robinson, Tyson Gibson. Tyson Gibson was the shocking one. Warren Jeffrey, I believe we went over Clark Peterson, got a qualifying offer plus last episode. I believe we went over Nick DeMood as well. On the 13th, they're actually updating these now, so they actually have it all separated on when this actually happened on the transaction wire. That's fun. Rochester pretty much qualified all their RFAs. Ryan Smith, Tyler Biles, Rylan Hartley. I don't know why I can't. It's because it's RH and RH. Riley Hutchcraft as well as Josh Medeiros, Kyle Waters, Mitch Ogilvie. He was the one that I was targeting in a dispersal draft, which obviously isn't happening. Ottawa, qualifying offer of Jeff Teat, a qualifying offer plus of Jeff Teat, qualifying offer Cam Dunkerley. Vegas pretty much did all their RFAs as well. Landon Kells, Kyle Killen, Justin Getty, Drew Belgrave, Jonathan Donville, Dylan Hutchison. I think Jack Hanna's still out there as well that they haven't done. And I saved San Diego for last. And Graydon Bradley, Eli Goptrick, Kellen LeClaire, and Austin Stotts. And I know a bunch of people are freaking out. What does this mean for Austin Stotts' suspension? Is he coming back to the NLL? Blah, 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 blah. That's just so he doesn't reach free agency. It's protecting his rights with San Diego so he doesn't reach free agency. I don't think there's any progress on anything. I haven't heard anything. Even if he does come back, the suspension has got to be even longer. I think the indefinite suspension is one thing, but handing him down real games rather than just a blanket indefinite still think needs to happen. But that was simply made to protect him from reaching UFA and having his rights be able to go elsewhere. So I understand the move. I get it. Makes sense. moving on past that. But a lot of this is just transaction wire mumbo jumbo for the teams and the players that they don't want to reach free agency and go elsewhere.
As per Section 7.1 of the CBA, that does not exist.
Yeah, and for CBA that we're not allowed to look at because they don't like making it public. And I saw a bunch of people say on Twitter this last week, especially with the Austin Stotts thing, it's fun that they list this stuff, and it's nice that they list this stuff, but if you ask for the CBA, you're told no. We've asked for it multiple times. We've been told no. But we did get details on some of the stuff that we had questions for, and we're very thankful that people were able to answer those. But I just feel like a CBA should be available to all. It'd be fun if you want to keep a league alive and moving forward. And what's moving forward is Albany
there you go.
Is no more. They're moving backwards and ceasing to exist. They're moving to Oshawa, Ontario. I'm not going to get into the Philly aspect of it, but there are rumors out there that Philly could be leaving as well. There's rumors out there that San Diego is footing the bill for Philly this year. There is the rumors that they're not going to have an arena once they build a new one in Philly. They're getting kicked out, and that's why Philly's going through this whole struggle right now. There's rumors that they might be going to Montreal and Laval. The Philly's a whole different animal that we'll hit on at a different time, different place, whatever. The main talking point here is Albany is relocating to Oshawa. What's funny is Oshawa is just outside of Toronto. The Oshawa Firewolves, which I believe that's what they're going to be called. I don't think they've figured out Ontario Oshawa yet. I think it's probably going to be Oshawa, though. They're going to be closer to Toronto than the Toronto Rock are. That's just funny to me. But I do feel bad, and I'm putting this out now. I feel bad for Albany fans. I feel bad for all the fans that were invested in this franchise. I feel bad for New England, who had their team ripped away and go to Albany. I feel bad for all the fans that have a stake and a rooting interest in teams that relocate. We went through that whole Sabres spiel about Sabres might be leaving when we were growing up with why am I blanking on their names?
I feel like I can picture it, but I don't know
Regis, whatever it was. The former owners before the league got him, and then Tom Golisano bought him from the league. But we've gone through that before. We've never gone through a full, relocation. I know the Buffalo Braves, like our parents' days, they went to LA. So I feel bad for the fans that were invested.
There's been tons of rumors with like the Bills for the longest time.
Also
moving,
the Bills,
especially when before Pagula came in, it was like, well, they're just going to kick him out because it's a small market. The Bills aren't going to be in Buffalo anymore. There was tons of rumors about that. So like it was the same thought, like just feeling like, oh, that's not cool.
Yes. So we've never been on hand for losing a team. So I can't sit there and say I know how it feels. I feel bad for, again, anybody that's invested time and money and rooting interest in the Albany Firewolves. It stinks. You had a young team there that just 2 years ago made an NLL Finals and were going against the Buffalo Bandits. The vibes were good. You had Dyson Williams come in, former number 1 overall pick. You got Alex Simmons, Ty Kirch, Doug Jamieson, so on and so forth on Albany. And to have that ripped away, especially after you just had a long-term lease agreement with the arena that you were playing in, it felt like they were there for the long haul. I believe it was last offseason we talked about, man, Albany's looking better. But on the other hand, you look at it and you go, did the league not do enough to promote Albany in Albany? Did the team not do enough to invest in the market there? Like, I understand in the grand scheme of things, looking at the attendance numbers and looking at the empty arena, why they would want to move. Why would you invest more time and energy and resources in an environment that's clearly not working? But then you look at it, it's okay, is it not working because the fans have no interest in it? Or is it because your team is not investing in it and finding ways to bring people in? And I understand we're sitting here in Buffalo, the grandstand, the tier 1 of the NLL and what all teams try to be, and to try to use that as an example. It's very tough to just take a blanket thing and try to apply it elsewhere because it doesn't work everywhere. So you got to find your own niche in that environment, and it just seems like after COVID and moving to Albany, they weren't able to sell the team in the correct way for that environment. But that does not mean that I believe the move to Oshawa is the correct decision. I think they're going to thrive better in Canada just because box lacrosse thrives better in Canada overall. It's a better environment, better market. You're going to pull some fans from Toronto to that side because they're on separate sides. Hamilton's on one side. You got Oshawa on the other side. To me, it's just, again, I understand the move. I get it. I agree with it. But that does not mean that I feel any less bad for the fans of Albany and the Albany Firewolves as a whole.
Give me 1 second. I'm looking something up.
Are you looking at the locations of where these places are?
No, I was looking at something that was weird with the capacity. So I was looking at final attendance numbers from last year from Reddit. Not sure who posted it, but it looks pretty legit. I mean, that doesn't make any sense at all.
Their new arena, I believe, if I remember correctly, holds like 7,500 fans, and I believe their old one was around 6,000, if I remember correctly. I remember I saw
that's one of the things I was looking at was Albany's MVP is configurable to accommodate 6,000 to 17,500. Okay, so the 6,000 is probably for. Now it says a maximum seating capacity of 15,500 for sporting events. So we'll say 15,000. And then Levy posted that the Albany Firewolves had an average of 5,014 attendance, which is the lowest in the league as of the 24-25 season. So, but like you said, I mean, there's still a new team. So like how long do you have to give before a team is like considered just dead? Like you got to give it time for that team to build in that area. So are they pulling the plug too early? But like you said, I mean, overall it stinks for anybody who is in Albany and really likes that team. Especially, like you said, not only were they just in finals, but they were very young. It wasn't a team. Like right now, if you want to look at the two comparisons, and this is going to be mean, but you've been mean to them plenty of times in this podcast, so we'll rip into some more. Philly, for how bad they've been, I mean, kudos to them. They did go for it at the trade deadline, and we did give them massive props for that. But I feel like where Albany was headed, what Albany was building, was very young and exciting, and a team that they could build around, could get fans in. You got all these young players, all this, like this core is going to be here for years and years and years, and that's a team that fans can lock onto. Like, oh, these players aren't going anywhere for a really long time. And then if you look at Philly, who could possibly move, yes, it's all rumors, but just as a comparison, like Philly right now, to us, is not building towards something great, and you had most of their players disappearing in free agency that they need to be competitive. So, like, just the polar opposite of, like, one team could be building in the city that they're in with the young talent they have, and the other one looks like it could just be dead and disappearing very quickly. So, like, if Philly moves, yes, they still have plenty of passionate fans. We've seen that in comments around the NLL forums and whatnot, but I feel like the team that's there isn't one that you're like super rooted, invested in, whereas the Albany Firewolves just getting Dyson Williams, like that kind of idea of like that young talent, that future franchise player, like I could see the fans really gripping him, like, okay, this is it. Like we got the face of the franchise. We got this young team's on the rise. Like all the fans could kind of gravitate around that. Whereas now it's being ripped away, which is super not great for the Albany fans. Like you said, for Oshawa, for the move, everything seems to be working better. My brother mentioned it, and I think Adam Levy posted that. I think it was if Philly moves as well. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was just Albany at the time, that there's going to be 6 teams within 600 miles for the NLL. Absolutely insane to me. That's, I guess, my bigger interesting takeaway from this that I want to pose to you is like, if Oshawa ends up being the more cemented area for the team that they can build around that area, and it will be better long term for that organization. At the same time, as far as the NLL goes as a league, not only does it seem like it looks bad that a team once again is moving after you just had a team barely saved by new owners, but another team that same offseason after losing a team is now moving somewhere else. Like it, from a face value, it looks bad, but in general, do you think it looks bad to have 6 teams within 600 miles of each other, that like the entire NLL's in like 2 little clumps around the States and Canada? It's in like far east north and far west north, and we'll see how long. I know they're Attendance actually did really well this year, but we'll see how Vegas does. We'll see how they stick around, because now they seem to be like the team that's the weirdos and kind of just the down south a little bit. It's not super down south, they're out of the way.
Too, but yeah.
In Georgia, I mean, if Philly moves, they're not. I mean, they're pretty north too, but like even that as an example, like Georgia now is a very weird outlier team. When you look at like a map of where all the teams are, it's like all upper northeast and northwest, and then just like one or two teams randomly down south. Like, does that to you look bad for the NLL? Like, as a trying to be an up and coming big league, like, does that visually give a bad perspective of we can't take any of these teams and keep them around when they're down south? Like, it has to be in the north in order to make it work. Does that seem like it's a bad visual for somebody who's just looking at the NLL just randomly, like, oh, well, let's see where all the teams are in the NLL, and it's just like clumped together? Like, does that look weird for a professional league?
Based on the look of it, no. I don't think that bothers anybody whatsoever. You look at other sports and there's giant clusters, and then there's some that are straggling out, and you got to remember there's only 14 teams in this league. So
right.
This is just the base model of it. But what I will say is, yes, it looks bad that you're having another team relocate. I think that in itself, and then on top of that, Rochester almost folding, and then you got the Philly situation. That is way worse spectacs than just clumps of teams. What I will say, though, depending on where Philly goes, I do think that what we do have on hand here is a possibility of fixing one of the arguments that the players have, and that's travel. And I know that everybody loves the unified standings. We love it. We've said it's one of the best changes that the NLL has ever made. The issue is the travel on the part-time players, and I'm calling them part-time because that's what they're making. They're making part-time money. But I think what you could do here is you could go back to an east-west model where it's way less travel, and somehow mix in that you're still seeing teams and going to places at least once every 4 years, kind of like the NFL does, where, yes, you're not seeing everybody in the arenas. You're not seeing Jeff Teeth come to Buffalo every single year. You're not seeing Wes Berg come to Buffalo every single year. But you're having everybody, and off the top of my head, I can't do all the math, but 7 and 7, rather than 7 Canadians, 7 Americans, because you got Vegas out there, you got Colorado out there. It would be easier to travel west-east again and somehow make it where, okay, once a year Buffalo goes to San Diego, once a year San Diego comes to Buffalo, and then you got to flip it where once a year Saskatchewan comes to Buffalo, and then reverse that. So I do think it's still a way to happen, and I think there's good compromise to it, but that's somebody for some other day to think about much better than I am. But again, it does stink for Albany, their fans, but I guess this is a PSA for all the ownerships and all the teams out there that might be struggling attendance-wise. You have to invest in the market you're in, and fans, again, we called this out to Rochester last week when we talked about it. Okay, Rochester saved. The Seneca Nation came and bought Rochester and is keeping in Rochester. But if fans don't start coming out, they could be on the move as well. I mean, you gotta go to these places, and otherwise, why would teams want to stay there? Halifax moved out of Rochester for a reason. Remember, Halifax used to be Rochester. They moved to Halifax and are selling out that barn, and that environment up there is fantastic. That was the correct move. You got to invest and start a podcast. Bring friends to games. Like, get people interested in this sport. Fans can do a lot to help this team and teams in that market thrive just as much as teams can in that market. Teams can only go so far. Like, if you can't get people to the arena, no matter how much money you invest in it, they're going to start looking elsewhere, hence Albany. Again, not saying that they did enough in that market, not saying the league did enough in that market, but you also have to look at yourself in the mirror and say, am I doing enough to keep this team around? Because if you're not, it all comes down, and that's what we talked about when we didn't want to dive into the money at the CBA talks. The bottom line is the money. And if the money ain't there, they're going to look elsewhere to get the money. Look at Panther City. They folded because they weren't making money. So, again, fans also have some responsibility in this. Not criticizing the fans that were there and the dedicated fans whatsoever, but you still got to bring people to the arena. You still got to have interest in this team. Otherwise, they're going to look elsewhere, and that's what Albany did. And I think, again, for the overall grand scheme and health of the league, in my opinion, without diving too much into it, without having any facts to back it up, I think the move to Oshawa was the better decision. And long haul, again, I'm trying not to dive into too much, but long haul, does this convince more players to want to go play in Oshawa rather than to go play in Albany? Albany is a lot different than Oshawa. Oshawa is just outside of Toronto. A lot of fans and a lot of players are in the Canadian Toronto area. There's not as many fans and players in the Albany area. So just putting that out there as well. You could be able to pull in a few more extra star players that are coming on the market soon. And maybe free agency opens next week, Friday, Phil. Who knows? But what is opening is we're going to be GM a little bit for the day here. We each came up with 3 ideas on how to improve this team. One of these ideas has to be a way to replace Matt Vince. This was your little caveat in it. Love it, hate it at the same time. That means Matt Vince is retiring. But again, I wasn't trying to say that word. Didn't say. We're looking for a Matt Vince replacement for fun. All hypothetical is never going to happen. We did this last year. Didn't work out because he came back, and he's coming back again. And
it did work out for him.
It did, 100%, and he earned a lot of stuff. Hopefully you never listened to that one. But let's make some moves to help improve the back-to-back champions. And again, we each decided on 3 moves. It could be a signing. It could be a trade, whatnot, whatever it is to fill out this team. And again, one of those moves has to be replacing Matt Vince because he has to go take a phone call. Let's start with the Matt Vince replacement type of deal. Phil, what idea do you have to replace the greatest goaltender and possibly player to ever put on a uniform in the league and, I guess, play the sport in general?
Yeah. So to me...
One caveat here, real quick.
Okay.
Phil has no idea what my ideas are, and I have no idea what his ideas are. I thought this was a big game, so when I'm reacting to his and he's reacting to mine, it's the first time we've heard it. I honestly have no idea what his are.
That you probably do just because we've talked about it a lot in the offseason. But you don't know exactly what's going on.
What it is, but...
So I am going after Nick Damoud in a trade. I think he is the only one who might be... He's not actually available. I mean, there's no way Philly's actually shopping him actively by any means, but if you're aggressive enough, I think he's the one that you might want to go after. Last year, he had a bit of a down season with that Philly defense in front of him being real rough. He had a 12.7 goals against average, 78 save percentage. Not bad, but not great. However, with Panther City in 23, he had a 78.9 save percentage. In 24, he had a 79.9 save percentage, right on that edge of 80%, which would be in pretty much elite company for a goalie. Put a great defense in front of him like the Buffalo Bandits have, and I do think he could get back to that 80-ish save percentage. Even if it's 79 and up, that would look really, really good. I know that there's a lot going on. PK and I know this from a dynasty spectrum because we've been doing a lot of dynasty fantasy, that the Bandits right now are in a very win now mode. They don't have time to find a new goalie and build him up. Again, this is kind of taking Orleman out of the equation because we have no idea what he is. It's very hard to predict what he is without seeing him play anytime recently. The Bandits have a much better idea than we do. So I'm trying to take him a little bit out of the equation because I don't know what he is at this point. He could be great. He could be just average. We really don't know because we haven't seen it in a long time. But right now, Dane, Josh, Priolo, half of the team is on the older end of things, and they're not getting any younger. You do not have 2, 3, 4 years for a younger goalie to build up and try to find that new goalie and figure out who your goalie is going to be. They need to be very aggressive. They need to, if Vince were to retire, which is all very hypothetical because he's absolutely coming back, he has to come back. But if he were to hypothetically retire, I think the Bandits would have to be extremely aggressive and find that goalie right now to keep this team in championship contention. I don't think they have time to figure out who that goalie is going to be because you're right now in the prime of Dane and Josh especially, and you do not want to lose those years, a.k.a. the Buffalo Bills, who have an MVP and are losing his years in his prime. But for me, the trade I made, Del Bianco in the season this was for a lifelong. This was not a trade deadline acquisition, even though it happened at the trade deadline. But this was a career picking move. This wasn't a rental, is what I'm trying to say. My goodness. He was traded for Braden Lady, an absolutely excellent defender. 2025 first, a second, and a 2026 first. So that's a good blueprint. Rose at the trade deadline for a rental outside of players. He was essentially traded for a 26 first at the deadline. And then there were some players on both sides that swept teams. So for me, I think in order to get a player like Damoud away, I think Philly should be in a rebuild mode, and they need draft picks in order to do that. I have Damoud for a 2026 first, second, third, and then this one, PK is going to yell at me at first, but give me a second. I also had a Trent Robertson. Yes, I know he's technically UFA, so I think the Bandits can sign him and then trade him away in this trade. He's a very good young defender. I think that would help Philly. They need defense. He's a very good young defender, just didn't make it on the Bandits, but I think with all those picks, plus a young defender, yes, he'd have to be a sign and trade. The Bandits will figure that out. The Bandits this year also have another second round pick, an additional one, so they still have something to get from this draft and a young player that they can add to their already no room roster if they want to, but they still get the goalie of the future. I think a trade like that might get it done for Philly.
I do agree. I think that's I wouldn't even call it a hefty price because I don't value second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth round draft picks very highly. We've run over that so many times until they fix what we said was wrong with the draft system. It's never going to fix itself. Sorry, there's something in the middle of my screen right here, and I don't know how to get rid of it. Your account is full, and I can't free up any more storage here. What am I supposed to do here, Phil?
What is your account full for?
It says it's a Dropbox, and I can't click off anything else. Free up storage. That just opened that one, so I can minimize it. Okay, deal with that later. Here we go. I think that's the right asking price, and I think that's the right value for a young goaltender like that you do have to trade something to get something. It's just like I always hate the people that always go out there, I'll give you my trash for your star player. You have to give up something to get something good. So I do agree. I think a one in there is a guaranteed need to be for a Nick Damoud, even with a down season last year, even though I don't think he had a down season. I think just Philly stinks. I'm piling on you again. I don't care. My replacement for Matt Vince, because it's never going to happen, but I have talked about this guy in the past as well, and I knew you were going Nick Damoud, so I went a different route. I'm going a righty goalie. He's 26 years old. He's from Orangeville, Ontario. And he's been with New York and Ottawa since 2023. It's one and only Cam Dunkerley. And he only played in 15 games last year. I couldn't get Zach Higgins, so I'm going with his backup. 2023-24 season, he played well over 1,000 minutes. He was 8-10, 12.58 goals against, and a 75 save percentage. Yes, those numbers aren't great, but again, he was playing behind a very bad New York's defense. 2022-23, he played 9 games, 333 minutes. He was 2-3, 11.69 goals against, 77 save percentage. Backing up, Steve Orleman, who I do think is the front runner to replace him. But if Matt Vince takes that phone call and is out for a while, Steve Orleman, yes, is the main piece, but you need to bring in competition because as well as Evan C. is playing in juniors right now, and I think his season is actually over, as well as he did play, I don't think he's ready for NLL action just yet.
Not to carry a championship team.
Correct.
Is the problem.
I don't think he should even be a backup on that team right now. You need to bring in competition. Yes, his future is very promising, and yes, I'm excited to see what he develops into, but it's not his time just yet. So I need to bring in competition, which is Cam Dunkerley. He just got a qualifying offer, but it was not a qualifying offer plus. Does he take offense to that? I say he does. Now, remember, Orangeville is closer to Buffalo than Orangeville is closer to Ottawa. He would actually be moving closer if he still lives in Orangeville. Again, that's his hometown. I'm going off that. Ottawa has Zach Higgins already, and Will Johnston, their goaltender, 22 years old, was on their practice squad. He can just slide in and replace Cam Dunkerley. They have the 33rd overall pick. They have 1/3, 2/4, and a 6. That's it. They don't have a first-round pick. I'm not sending a first-round pick for this, but I will be sending Philly's pick that Buffalo got from last year's dispersal draft, which is 21st overall. I'm going to send Buffalo's own third-round pick, which is 39th overall, and Buffalo's 2026 sixth-round pick in exchange for Cam Dunkerley. So a second, a third, and a future sixth for a possible goaltender that can compete with Steve Orleman, or at least be his backup and solidify the position, like you said, in a win-now position.
I like the take the shot on the player who hasn't been given a great opportunity yet.
He's been put in a lose-lose situation of all times and then got replaced by a Zach Higgins, who rightfully so did start and only got 15 minutes. He went from being the starter to a 15-minute player. It's a shame, and he's never making playoffs in Ottawa, so come to Buffalo. Yes, that was a shot at Ottawa. I'm taking shots all over the place.
And the price isn't nearly as hefty.
He's not as nearly as a coveted goaltender, so that's also
no.
true. I would rather have your deal, honestly, but I knew you were going with that, so I came up with an alternative.
I do like it. I know you've been kind of on him as an alternative as well for most of the offseason, as we've been briefly talking in the hypothetical world that will never happen because Vince will play forever.
He's playing till he's 60.
Like in the Sandlot when
he's
they say
forever, really
playing
against
slowly.
His children. That's what's going to happen.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. And I hope, well, maybe playing with, because the Bandits are probably going to draft him. So.
Fair. I would anybody with a last name of Vince is coming to Buffalo.
I don't care what position you play. Join
Phil,
us.
what is your next move? This one could be anything because we got rid of the Mad Vince replacement. What is your next deal here?
Yeah, so this is something I've been talking about a lot of the off season, and to me at this point, so this is something I'm going to bring up with you as well. I couldn't find a trade. I looked really hard. I just couldn't make it work. I know you did find one, and I'm excited to hear it because I couldn't make a trade work. I was looking at all the players I would want.
All the GMs just hung up on the phone on Phil. They're like,
yeah, they really did.
No, we're not making a deal with you. Three-time champion, 3 straight champions. We're not making a deal with you.
You want one of our young players?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
that was kind of the problem. Was the old players are the ones that are like the captains on the team and aren't going anywhere, and the young players are the ones that these bad teams need to build around and aren't going to lose. So it was very difficult. The other problem with the Bandits, which is the problem we've had for 3 years, which is the greatest problem to possibly have, is their roster is stacked and there's no room on it. So it pretty much wipes out forwards altogether. I don't know what if you went forward. We'll see how it goes. I'd be happy to listen to it because I like injecting some forward something into this team, but it's really hard to find any space on this forward. So I keep going to defense, even though defense, again, is fantastic and has little room. But to me, what worries me about the Bandits right now is if they straight run it back, I think teams like Vancouver and Saskatchewan will catch them this upcoming season, and that concerns me quite a bit. I think they're still very, very good, but I think these other teams are doing enough to catch them and possibly pass them in the season, in the playoffs, whatever it is. It's going to be very hard to four-peat if they just run it back. So to me, I wanted to get a couple of splash players that can push this team to stay ahead of the others. And that one to start with is still Mitch Desnew. And the big reason is simply they need a big player. To me right now, I don't think, again, if they run it back, it worries me. I would still trust the team. They're extremely good. But a player like Desnew, who led the league in caused turnovers, was second in loose balls, sixth in block shots, and added 19 points in transition, you inject that onto this already stellar Bandits team, and that keeps you ahead of a Vancouver Warriors or of the Saskatchewan Rush, as they are likely going to push in free agency, sign a bunch of players, and make their teams that much better. I think a player like Desnew, still in his prime after leading the league in almost every category, I think he would still keep the Bandits way ahead, and maybe not way ahead, but would keep them ahead and give them that extra juice on the back end to stay ahead of these teams that are trying to still run them down and catch them. And again, we've talked about it a lot this offseason, but if there was ever a time, I think this is the only time, in my opinion, that you're going to be able to possibly get Mitch Desnew is this offseason. He was traded away. He's no longer in connection with Toronto. Do I think he goes back to Toronto where there's a chance of it? Absolutely. But right now, he's not he wasn't there to be re-signed. He went to Philly in a trade, so now he's slightly broken from Toronto. They can't just be like, oh, he played here all season. let's re-sign him. He has that little bit of a time where he's played with another team, and this is the time to go get him. It would literally be just a 1-year deal. Come to Buffalo, try to win a title. You've played here before. We know you still like Buffalo. All the players were trying to get him at the trade deadline. It didn't work. I don't blame Toronto for not trading him to Buffalo, but I still think this is the one time that you're going to have a chance to get a player like him to Buffalo, and if they don't do it this offseason and goes back to Toronto, I think that pretty much steals the book on where he's going to finish his career.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think this is their best shot to get Mitch Snoop back with his outside lacrosse life. There's only so many places that he can play and is willing to play, and Buffalo is one of them. Toronto's one of them. And I thought Philly was one of them, but now with their future in jeopardy on where they might end up, I don't know if he can hook his wagon to Philly either on a 1-year deal or long term. But with Albany moving to Oshawa, does that open another possibility? So it goes from Philly to Oshawa, so there's still, to me, a 3-headed race here for Mitch Snoop. I do think the best situation for him to win a championship is in Buffalo because the foundation's there. They've done it. There's proof of concept, and he's played there before. I mean, all those connections are still there. So I fully agree with it. It will come down to, one, is there room? And two, obviously they would make room for Mitch Snoop. But do they want to add a player like him to disrupt what they already have? Do they already believe in the room that they have? Or are they willing to open up the door and make room for him? Obviously, that would make the most sense. But again, locker rooms are finicky in the NLL, and that's why they said with face-off men, they're not just going to bring in anybody because they're skilled. It's got to be a specific one to fit the room. Does his presence fit perfectly in that room? He's been there before, and then everything went down with COVID, and he went back to Toronto. So I do like the signing. It just comes down to, can they pull his heartstrings back to Buffalo, or is his heart set in Toronto right now? But I love the signing. I made a signing as well. This was one that I've talked about multiple times. A few people said this actually made sense. Mike Manley, right forward, 235, 37. He's been with Georgia since 2023. His career has been a little bit more scattered than I thought it was when I look more into it. He spent 2013 to 2014 in Philly, then the 2015 season in New England. He started the 2016 season in New England, moved to Rochester, played 13 games there between 2019 and 2022, and last year, 18 games played, 2-5-7, 60 loose balls, 15 caused turnovers, 17 blocked shots. He's from New York. He works up here. To me, this would bring in more depth on the defensive side of the ball. You can never have too much defensive depth. He's another leader. He wants to win. Georgia is Georgia. I've already went over them multiple times. There's another team. Shot with an arrow. It seems like the perfect situation for both the team and the player. I think he's an easy fill-in replacement if Paul Dawson does decide to hang it up, but Matt Vince isn't. Paul Dawson isn't. We're going from there. But I do think that he would be another easy slide into the locker room type of player. He's a leader. He's elder statesman. He wants to win. I think Buffalo would be a good fit for him. It fits lifestyle-wise and the team-wise. I would give him a 1-year deal to chase the title.
I'd say it's really tough. Like, it's great for the Bandits, obviously, with where they are. But for the most part, you're looking at veteran players to add something to an already great team. Yeah. And as splashy as Desnu might be, like, Manley's the kind of guy who fits really well for this team and what they're probably looking for in an offseason realistically. And it's not all that exciting when you see all the other names that are going to be flying around free agency that, again, it's usually 6 to 8 big names that might actually move, but those big names are going to be very exciting for some of these other teams. You and I have keyed in on Vancouver, making some really big splashes in the offseason. So when you see a team like Vancouver that's already really good, get some of these like splashy plays or players, it's like, oh, why aren't the Bandits doing that? And like, they're already pretty set.
Their splash was made like 4, 5, 6 years ago.
Right. Like, everyone's still chasing Buffalo, and they've proven that the last 3 seasons. So the Bandits just aren't going out of their way, and they don't need to go out of their way to make those splashy plays or get those splashy players.
What they have.
Right, exactly. They're adding depth. They're adding just those little bit of pieces that push this team to the next level or keep them at the level they're already at, which is obviously number one, and I think a Manley can do that. As far as splashy signings go and players, I'm going to add one more. that this one I don't really think happens, but you had this player going possibly to Toronto in your free agency bid. So I figured Buffalo, Toronto, pretty close. We talked about it a little bit. Shane Simpson is a player that would be dynamite for the Buffalo Bandits, a transition incredible player. He's 31 years old. He had a bit of a down year last year, playing in only 12 games between the Desert Dogs and the Wings. But in 2024, we all know what he was able to do with Christian Del Bianco, putting up 24 points in transition. The Bandits, to me, added some great transition depth last year, like we've talked about quite a bit, how much they did add in the trade deadline. But I still think they can add more, and I think Simpson is one of the more dynamic transition players in the league. And at 31 years old, he's a free agent. I don't really think he's going to come to Buffalo, but I think he's the kind of player that, again, you're looking to boost a weaker area of the team. I think transition could be another area to add a veteran player like this who has played such a great role as a transition player on some great teams. You had him going to Toronto. Again, Buffalo's pretty close, so maybe being from Hamilton, Ontario, he wouldn't mind. Again, a lot of these players, to me, if you're going to be able to get these big swing players, it's going to be a one-year deal, because I don't think that these players really want to lock their roots, per se, in Buffalo. Not that there's anything wrong with Buffalo, but I feel like these are the kind of players that want to go for a championship 1 year and then figure out where they want to go for a multi-year deal. So Shane Simpson, again, similar to Desnu, would be a one-year shot, bring him in, try to win a title, go have fun, and then probably move on from there.
I love Shane Simpson. I've loved him since his Calgary days. He went to Vegas, then went to Philly. The one thing to watch for is if Philly just slaps that franchise tag on him and says you're not moving anywhere. But I do love him. It would be the transition type player that we've been craving for the longest time now. How long have we been doing this show? That's how long. I do love it. It will be interesting to see if that is a name that Buffalo would like to chase, because he's not known for his defensive ability, but with how Buffalo's defense is shaped and how they play, you don't need to rely on him to be that defensive player. You just need to make sure that he's out on the floor with certain players that can cover up the insufficiencies that he does have. But I love the move. I love Shane Simpson. Don't go to Toronto, and I'll love you even more. But I'll move on. My one trade, and again, I completely agree with you. Finding a trade here with Buffalo, trying to find a piece that would work for Buffalo is very difficult. Last year, it seemed a little bit easier than this year doing it. I think I traded Justin Robinson like 7 times, and he ended up not even on the team, and traded away, just not in any of the deals that I made. But I went to Philly because they're a tire fire of an organization right now. Sorry, I said it again.
That's what I was staring at for my trades.
Another one. I am getting a transition type player. He's a lefty, 26 years old. He's another player from Orangeville, Ontario. Started his career in San Diego, was traded to Philly in the big Trevor Baptiste deal. Mike McConnell. And he's not the type of player that is living up to his 5th overall draft pick pedigree in 2021. I mean, the names around that one were just ridiculous. Nanakoke was in that draft, for an example. That draft was absolutely loaded. Jonathan Donville was in that. Mike McConnell went 5th. Now, again, he's not, in my opinion, he's not living up to what he was drafted to be in San Diego. He was traded in the big Baptiste deal to Philly. Now, last year he played in 17 games, 4-2-6, 55 loose balls, 8 caused turnovers, 3 block shots. Not a big year. Last year, Philly, 14 games, 1-6-7, 55 loose balls, 6 caused turnovers, 4 block shots. So the numbers aren't truly there. He had a 13 caused turnover season his rookie year in San Diego. But I personally think there's more to his game. I think that he is a player that is an RFA. Philly has only offered one player as of this recording, and that's Nick Damoud. Do they want to qualify him with any type of offer? The team needs players. The team needs picks. We've went over this so many times this offseason. I don't know what Philly's doing because there's so many UFAs on that team. They really need to just tear this whole thing down and go for a rebuild. Maybe this move that I'm making here is a possible overpay, but Philly right now just doesn't have the players, and I think making this move, especially after what Buffalo did last year by picking all of their first-round picks and an early second-round pick in Trent Robertson, not making any moves around there. The cabinets are full right now. Like, they still have picks as well. So to me, I'm trading this year's first overall pick, the 14th overall pick, and a 2026 fifth round pick for Mike McConnell. Again, maybe that's an overpay, but based on his draft pedigree being a fifth overall pick, based on what Philly needs right now, and McConnell is still a younger player that they might want to build around, I think you need to give something to get something, and the 14th overall pick to me says, hey, we're still in win mode now, right now. Let's go get a 4th straight title. Let's go get a piece that can help us right now, because the 14th overall pick likely isn't helping you this year. It's probably helping you in the future. Go for the 4th straight title right now and go get Mike McConnell. So that is the one and only trade I was able to find. And trust me, I worked for hours trying to find another trade, and I just couldn't. So Mike McConnell, you're coming to Buffalo.
Yeah, no, I like it. I like taking the shot on, like you said, a highly drafted, highly sought-after prospect when he came into the league. Has had a few down years with maybe not the best team around him. Put him, I mean, we kind of say this about a lot of players, but put them in Buffalo, put that support
Thomas
system
Whitty, for
around
example.
him, put
Like,
that defense around him. Exactly. I mean, someone who really wasn't working out all that well for Rochester, and by the second half of last year was one of the most dynamic players that Buffalo had, and everybody loved him throughout all the playoffs. Like, it's that kind of thing. Like, put him in the Buffalo system, put him around those veterans, encompass him with what Buffalo's support system is, and maybe you can take a player like that and push them back to the top of where they should have been. So I do really like that. I mean, it also what you said about the draft picks. I mean, look at Dooley, barely made it into the any games last year. Robertson didn't make it into the games last year. Nielsen barely made it into any games. So, yes, those draft picks are exciting, but at the same time, this team needs to win now. And those players, while, again, Dietrich does an incredible job of looking to the future while also going for a championship. So you still need to get those players and build around those players and have youth and veterans at the same exact time. But you can only have so many of those guys.
The cabinets are full right now.
Right. They're already roster jammed as it is. Anton Giovanni, we'll see if he decides to play. If he does, you're even more screwed because he was, the 8th overall pick last year for Buffalo. So that's another player you're injecting into this team that already, again, doesn't have any room. So to have draft picks, while they're great, and this would be a great thing to have, maybe a red shirt season. I don't know. Just
Who would
saying.
come up with an idea like that?
But there's just no room. So I could easily see them trying to trade these picks away to get now talent that can help them immediately. And for the Bandits themselves, it's really going to come down to some of the older guys if they re-sign or don't re-sign. Matisse is a huge one, I think, for Buffalo if they want to bring him back. Buchanan, we don't know if he's coming back. Vince, we are guaranteeing he comes back because he needs to. And with him, Dawson would likely come back as well. So if you get Vince, you get Dawson, that seals up 2 spots. But Buchanan, I think, would still be, to me, 50-50 at best. I think he might hang it up. And then it depends on if they want to bring back Matisse and some of these other guys that are UFAs. So while they have room, they also, if they don't want to have room, they don't need to have room at all. Like, this roster could be completely set with what they currently have, but they also could make room for some of these players if they feel that they are better than what they currently have. So it'll be probably a not all that exciting offseason for the Bandits. Hopefully not anything in the goalie department, but they could make some splash plays and splash moves if they really think that it's going to raise their team. And it's tough to kick other players out, but this team is, again, a win-now scenario, and they need the talent to keep up with the other teams that are trying to catch them.
Yeah, while we are very happy and thankful that the team is in the position that they're in, it also makes our creativity and fun content ability null and void because they're just so good that it's not fair that you can't come up with these fun, creative ideas. Like,
the playoff runs are fantastic, but the off season's very boring.
Yeah, very boring because they don't do anything. They don't need to do anything because Dietrich and Scott Loeffler and JT and all of them are just top tier. It makes our jobs
not a
boring.
Head coach of the year candidate, though.
Yeah,
no.
remember that. No. Not head coach, not GM of the year, blah, 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 blah. But Phil, that wraps up this episode. Went a little bit long, but that was a fun one. I thought we went back and forth very well. I love the trade ideas, love the signing ideas, and hopefully the one doesn't have to pan out because Matt Vince is having somebody else handle his calls like me. I volunteered to do that last year. All those offers transferred this year. Next week, we're recording on a Monday. It'll be out on Wednesday, but we won't have the cut down day. So we're going to go over the game that was the Tampa Bay one. Hopefully no starters play. We'll go over a little bit more. Maybe Buffalo makes a couple cuts early. We'll go over that. We'll have more NL coverage and maybe a CBA deal because free agency is scheduled to open next week, Friday. Who knows? There's still qualifying offers under the old CBA. I don't know what's going on. But Phil, that wraps up this episode. And we'll talk to everybody next week. Stay safe and enjoy the cooler weather. We're not dying in the heat.
It's fantastic.
It actually, that water that fell from the sky, that's rain.
Oh,
Yard needed it. Didn't have to water for a while. I love it. My rain barrels are restocked. So thank you all for listening to another episode of the Buffalo Sports Collective. Thank you to Tap That Tap Room for sponsoring this episode and this podcast. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Visit our website at buffalosportscollective.com. Check out our store on our link tree and our social media sites or at the shop tab at the top of the website. Follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts and make sure you leave us that review on Apple and Spotify. Let us know what move you would make to improve the 3 back-to-back-to-back champion. Until next time.